Every year, the little town of Bramble Creek threw a Halloween festival. Parades, hay rides, haunted houses, everything. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone and every porch glowed orange on October 31st. But last year, something strange happened. It started with a rumor. A new pumpkin patch had opened just outside town, Hollow's End. No one had ever heard of it before. No flyers, no ads. Just a sign on the road that appeared one morning. Hollow's End Pumpkin Patch, one night only. Teenagers, of course, had to check it out. Among them was 17-year-old Casey and her two friends, Ryan and Mia. They drove out just after sunset down a narrow dirt road lined with leafless trees. Fog rolled in as they reached a clearing filled with glowing pumpkins, hundreds of them. A man stood by the entrance, tall and thin, wearing a scarecrow mask. "Pick your pumpkin carefully," he said in a low voice. "Once you take it home, Halloween stays with you." They laughed, thinking it was part of the act, and walked in. Every pumpkin was perfect, deep orange, heavy, and glowing faintly from the inside. Casey picked one with a crooked stem and strange black markings near the top. When she asked how much it cost, the man just said, "It already belongs to you." That should have been the first warning. They left the patch, joking about how creepy it had been. But when they got back to town, something felt wrong. The streets were empty, the decorations still up, but no one was outside. The clock in the square read 11:59 p.m., and it stayed that way. They drove around. Every house still had its lights on, every pumpkin still burning, but not a single person moved. It was like time had stopped. Then Ryan pointed at the horizon. Guys?" Out past the trees, faint orange lights were moving toward them. Dozens of them, jack-o'-lanterns, floating. They realized the pumpkins from Hollow's End were coming back. Panicking, they rushed home. Casey set her pumpkin on the porch and ran inside. But when she looked out the window, the pumpkin's carved face was changing, its smile twisting wider. She tried to throw it away. The trash can was empty the next morning. The pumpkin was back on her porch, still smiling. And when she checked the clock again, it was still 11:59 p.m. Halloween never ended. Days passed, but the sky never changed. The candy stayed fresh. The fog never lifted. And every night she heard that same voice outside, whispering through the air, "Pick your pumpkin carefully." By the time the police came, weeks later, they said, the house was empty. Only one pumpkin sat on the porch. Inside it, carved perfectly into the flesh, were three names: Casey, Ryan, and Mia. And that night, just as the clock struck midnight for the first time in a month, a new sign appeared on the edge of town. Hollow's End Pumpkin Patch, one night only. Halloween was almost over. The streets were quiet, the kind of silence that only comes after laughter fades and the candy runs out. Emma sat by the window watching the last flickers of orange light from the jack-o'-lanterns across the street. Her own pumpkin had burned low, the smile melting into something sad and hollow. She glanced at the clock, 11:47 p.m. Almost time to blow out the candles, lock up, and head to bed. Then, ding-dong. The doorbell rang. Emma frowned. Who would be trick-or-treating this late? The kids around here usually went home by 9. Still, she grabbed the half-empty candy bowl and opened the door. Standing on the porch was a child, small, maybe 8 years old, wearing a faded clown costume. The colors were dull, and the mask looked handmade, like something from decades ago. "Trick or treat," the child said softly. Emma smiled awkwardly. "You're out late, sweetheart. Where are your parents?" The child tilted their head. "They're waiting." A chill ran through Emma. Something about the voice, flat, emotionless, didn't sound right. She dropped the last few chocolates into the plastic pumpkin bucket. The child didn't move, just stared. "Okay, well, happy Halloween," she said, forcing cheer into her voice and closing the door. But when she looked through the peephole, the porch was empty. The child had vanished. That night, Emma dreamed of laughter echoing outside her window, children's laughter. But when she looked out, she saw only shadows moving between houses. The next morning, she told her neighbor about the strange visitor. Mrs. Collins went pale. "Emma, you know what happened on this street, don't you? 10 years ago, a boy named Caleb Harris disappeared on Halloween night. He'd gone trick-or-treating dressed as a clown. The police searched for weeks, but he was never found." Emma brushed it off. Coincidence, urban legend. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed her home. That night, she set her candy bowl by the door, empty, no reason for anyone to stop by. But at 11:47 p.m., the doorbell rang again. Her heart pounded. Slowly, she approached. Through the peephole, she saw nothing. Then, a faint tapping on the glass. She opened the door. The candy bowl was full. Every piece was unwrapped, melted, ruined. And tucked inside was an old, faded photo. A boy in a clown costume smiling proudly at the camera. On the back, written in shaky letters, "Thanks for the candy. See you next year." Every October, the little town of Maple Hollow looked like something out of a postcard. Orange lights glowed on porches, scarecrows guarded the lawns, and the smell of pumpkin and smoke drifted through the streets. This year, Mark had just moved in. A city guy looking for a quiet place to start over. The neighbors were friendly, the coffee shop smelled like cinnamon, and on Halloween morning, he decided to decorate his front porch. He bought pumpkins, fake cobwebs, and a few cheap decorations from the town thrift store. But tucked in the corner, behind a pile of dusty costumes, he saw something that caught his eye. A tall, ornate mirror framed with carved bats and twisting vines. The store clerk noticed him staring and said, "That one's been here forever. It used to belong to the Carsons, before that Halloween night." Mark raised an eyebrow. "What happened that night?" The clerk just shrugged. "Some things in this town are better left in the dark." Mark smiled. "Sounds perfect." He bought it for $10 and brought it home. By sunset, the mirror was propped up in his hallway, reflecting the orange glow from his pumpkins outside. It looked perfect. But as the first trick-or-treaters arrived, something strange happened. When he opened the door for a group of laughing kids, he caught a glimpse of the mirror behind them. And there, standing among their reflections, was a tall figure in a black cloak and pumpkin mask. He turned. No one was there. He laughed it off. Must have been the lighting. But later it happened again. Another knock. More kids. And again that same figure standing silently in the reflection, never moving, never blinking. By the end of the night, the laughter on the street had faded and the jack-o'-lanterns burned low. Mark poured himself a glass of cider, locked the door, and turned off the lights. That's when he heard a soft knock. 3 times. He checked the porch. No one. But when he looked at the mirror, the figure was gone from the reflection. And the pumpkins outside, the ones on his porch, were smiling wider than before. He reached out to touch the mirror's surface, and it was warm. Like something living was breathing on the other side. The next morning, neighbors saw Mark's house still dark. The mirror sat cracked in the hallway, and his pumpkins, all of them, were carved with a new pattern. A tall figure in a cloak, a smiling jack-o'-lantern face. Now, every Halloween night, if you walk past that old house, they say you can still see the reflection flicker in the window. A man standing next to a pumpkin-headed stranger, smiling back at you. In the small town of Willow Creek, Halloween wasn't just a holiday, it was a tradition. Every October 31st, the whole town turned into one giant celebration. Pumpkin contests, haunted hayrides, and the famous midnight parade. Everyone wore costumes, no exceptions. The rule was simple. If you weren't masked, you didn't belong. This year, 17-year-old Evan was going as a skeleton. His friends had their outfits ready too. A vampire, a witch, and a zombie cheerleader. They planned to join the parade, grab some free candy, and maybe sneak into the cemetery later for ghost stories. But that night, as they walked through town, Evan noticed something strange. There was a man walking a few feet behind them. Tall, thin, wearing a plain black mask. No features, no eyes, just smooth plastic. At first, he thought it was another costume, but the man never spoke, never laughed, never joined any group. He just followed. Quietly, when they reached the town square, the crowd was huge. Music, laughter, kids running around. And for a while, Evan forgot about him, until he looked back. The man in the black mask was standing completely still among the crowd, facing him. "Hey," Evan whispered to his friends, "where do you see that guy?" But when they turned, he was gone. They laughed it off. "Come on, dude, it's Halloween. Everyone looks creepy tonight." By 11:30, the parade ended and the group headed toward the old cemetery carrying flashlights and half-eaten candy bags. The air was colder now, the moon hidden behind thin clouds. As they walked, Evan heard footsteps behind them, slow, steady, crunching through the leaves. He spun around, light flashing through the tree. Nothing. But then a faint shape appeared at the end of the road, the man in the mask. Evan's voice shook. "Guys, he's following us!" They turned their lights toward him, and he lifted his hand, pointing directly at Evan. Then in one long, slow motion, he tilted his head. Ryan the vampire tried to joke. "Nice commitment, buddy. You're scaring the crap out of us." The man didn't move. When they turned to leave, they heard something behind them. The soft snap of twigs. And then, whispering. It sounded like dozens of voices, muffled like they were all speaking through masks. They ran. By the time they reached the cemetery gate, the whispers had turned into laughter. Cold, hollow laughter echoing through the trees. Inside the graveyard, their flashlights flickered. Shapes moved between the tombstones, people all wearing plain black masks, stepping out from the fog. "Is this some prank?" Mia shouted, but no one answered. The masks turned toward them one by one until there were dozens of them. And right in the center, taller than the rest, him. Evan dropped his flashlight. The beam rolled across the ground, and for a split second he saw the man's shoes. Bare, covered in dirt. The group screamed and ran. Evan didn't stop until he reached home. He slammed the door, locked it, and turned off the lights. Silence. Then, knock, knock, knock. 3 times on the window. Evan's breath froze. Slowly, he turned toward the sound. Outside, the man in the black mask was standing in the yard, staring through the glass. Evan whispered, "What do you want?" The man raised a hand and peeled the mask away. Underneath was Evan's own face. Cold. Colorless, smiling. The next morning, Evan's friends called the police when he didn't show up. His door was still locked from the inside, but on the floor next to an empty candy bag, they found a mask. Smooth, black, and still warm to the touch. And that Halloween night in the next year's parade, a new figure walked silently among the crowd. Tall, thin, wearing a plain black mask, always watching. Always smiling.